بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Good morning, class. I hope all of you are fine, and you are doing fine. You are just waiting for final exam. In the previous session, we've covered the parts of test construction, and we've seen how could you prepare what we call it type of specification. At the same time, we've seen how to write objective. You prepare a test in connection to objective or content covered. And we've seen the types of test item or the format of the test, either be objective, subjective, or both. So today we are going to proceed with that part, but on the new subtopic, which is on the issue of characteristics of a good test. As you see, that will be in module 3, that we're going to concentrate on the characteristics of a good testing. As you know, as you remember in the previous session, we've seen how tests act as the tools of assessment and tend to be a tools of assessment, not all category of learning, but we concentrate on cognitive ability or the intelligence. The other domain like psychomotor and affective domain, those cannot be assessed in terms of papers. Or sometimes if you do it, maybe in psychomotor, but it needs a little bit other steps different from the normal one, which tend to use pen and paper, and then you sit on the table and then you answer the exam. So as you see here, the notes that you have, that's the part of psychomotor domain, which are just dealing with the skills acquired by a student, or affective domain, which is on the issue of attitude and opinion, we base on the purpose of objective of the test and what we are intending to measure. So to assess. So you may find, okay, this exam, the purpose of that exam is what? If you intend to assess the skills, so you may just come up with exam which tend to assess skills. But insofar as we know, most of the people that we tend to do in schools are those we tend to assess cognitive ability for the students. So we are going to concentrate on that. How now? We need to check that the provided test, is it hold the qualities of being judged either as good test or no good testing. So based on that idea, is that however, to obtain the accurate assessment, the test we use should be in a good quality or accurate enough to assess the traits or behavior or characteristics we are intending to assess without with the a little errors. So if you're not be serious, like you may find that the test is just characterized with a lot of errors. So to understand either the test is quality, together we need now to listen intensively on this session, so as you can judge that, oh, this test was quality or not quality, because we have things to consider, that either the test was quality or not quality. As you sit here on the slide, you see the quality, the characteristics, general, that the characteristics of a good test is what we call it. Test is supposed to be valid. That one. Two, supposed to be reliable. It contains reliability. It is practicality. it is administrability, it's comprehensive, it's objectivity, simplicity, and scalability. So as you see, most of them are 8 there. We can just use those things to conclude that, oh, the test was holding quality or not. So what will be our objectives now of today's session? That's at the end of the session, to be in a position of explaining in clarity the characteristics of a good test. Those ideas, validity, reliability, scalability, the issue of objectivity, and the other things. You're supposed to be in a position now of understanding them. Number 2, you're supposed to know what is validity and what is reliability and what is objectivity of the test. You may just know the meaning of it, but in connection to the test. We'll talk about validity. In connection, we mean what in connection to test? Objectivity, we mean what? That will be our second objective. The second objective will be in describing the relationship between validity and reliability. And then number 4, analyze the test to ensure it is reliability and validity. That points on objective number 4. That's where we're going to involve in a little bit in calculating, because you cannot determine the validity of the test or reliability of the test by words. Likely most of the types we're going to see later on, it involves calculation. And then list different types of validity, and then you describe different methods of determining or estimating what? Reliability. So those are objectives. Can you please now try to think on these few questions? Now, the first question, because I know that you have a handout in your hand, sometimes you don't see it, but if you are using your handout, you can now read those questions clear. That from your knowledge and experience, how do you know if a test or any other tools which can be used for assessment or a measurement is good or is good quality? That's okay. As you remember that we have several types of assessment tools. One is testing. So how do you know that, oh, this assessment tool was good or was just holding quality? How do you know? That's the first question. Number 2 that you need to ask yourself, if a tool or a test is used to assess is not providing consistent results, what that means to you, that you are just providing the test, and then you in the first occasion you provide the same test in the second occasion, but do not bring consistency. That the results is cannot compare. There's no similarities of the results. That idea imply what in the scores of measurement, assessment, and evaluation. And the third question that you want to ask yourself, is it possible for a tool to provide the same result when you measure the objective or the subjective, when you measure the object or subject more than once? That's okay. Based on you're just having experience, maybe sometime your teacher tend to come up with the same test in several, and then you're supposed to do it in more than one time. So the question is, do you think the results that the tools may just bring the same result, even if it just come up, they are being administered in different time? That the question, that's what are variables do you think can impact your tools or tests during assessment? That's another question I need to ask you. So when you try to check those 4 questions, it could be like our map now for today's presentation. That need you think, because we are always experiencing exams. Some of you are teachers. So how do you know now that that idea is like is that the test is quality or not quality? So I think now you're asking those questions, and if you're asking those questions, I think you have answers. So we are going now to start presentation, and then from presentation, why I'm just explaining, try to compare your idea and the available and the new idea that I want to come up with. Although human test has a long history, as you know, which can be traced back to the 1500 BC. Still, it is used until now. So we cannot just okay now because the tests you are just always using for a long time. You're just using the tests. Now we need to abolish tests. No, that is a lot. It has a big history, but no way out. That still remain as the main tools of assessing student achievements. So setting a good test will be, it's very important, because if the test is not well prepared, it means that it may cause some sort of difficulties, or sometimes can just assess the things which are not intended to assess. So you need to be very careful in constructing a test. So for a good test, it should possess the following characteristics. One, as I've told you before, I've just mentioned 8, but we're going to concentrate on 3, because the other one is just a matter of explanation. You can't just see what is scalability, what is objectivity, what is about administrability, and the other things. But in this session, we're going to concentrate only on 3 characteristics. One is validity. The second one is reliability, and the third one is objectivity. So in your time, you may just go in detail and then try to read this one, and then you understand what is it on the issue of practicability, comprehensiveness, simplicity, scalability, and administrability. That's it. I'm going to share with you this slide so you can just read the other one. But in this session, we're going to concentrate on this only 3. So let's start with that idea now. Just imagine you are reading a test which was claimed to assess student reading ability. But through reading, you realize that in the same test, some questions are assessing student grammar knowledge. Will you still use that test to make a decision about reading ability? Let me repeat slowly. Let's imagine you are preparing a test, because as you remember, you said that you're supposed to have objectives. So the objective of the test is about reading. So you have a reading, you read a test which claims to assess a student reading ability. But through reading, you realize that in the same test, some questions are assessing student grammar knowledge. Which will you still use that test to make decision about reading ability? That the test, the aim of the test is to assess reading. But at the same time, you find that, the test is not now assessing reading. It's just even the question which is concentrating on grammar, assessing grammar. So what's your stand? Is it still the test valid or not valid? So if the answer is yes, give us the reason why is it yes. That's the question, the test which tend to assess reading ability, but at the same time assessing grammar question, having grammar question. If you say that is correct, still it's okay. Tell us why. And if you say no, also give us the reason. So from the above scenario, that tend to check the test on the issue of assessing reading skills on same time having grammar. That's the scenario we're just talking about. That's we've discussed about above open to us a door certain to open our mind toward test validity concept, that which is among the most important concept in education and psychological test and assessment or measurement. That's from that scenario of you have a certain objective, you prepare a test, but within the test you find that you have another ideas or question which is different from the from the objectives. That's where we get the idea now of saying, oh, sir, your test was not valid, or your test was valid. So basing on that, either valid or not valid, we may get it from that scenario. So the scenario we've discussed above open our mind toward the validity concept, which is among the important concepts in psychological and educational test and measurement. The concept of validity was formulated by Kerr, 1927, who stated that test is valid if it assesses what is claimed to assess. So we say that the test was valid if it assesses what it was intended to assess. So as you see, I've just done most of the notes, I'm just putting a measurement, but I suppose later when I'm going to edit and then I'm going to send it for you. It's instead of just putting their measurement, we need to put the word assessment. So validity by definition is if a test may assess what is claimed to assess. This means if the test is prepared or is claiming to assess reading ability, should assess reading ability, and not something else. The issue of grammar, knowledge, comprehension. No, it's not the intention of the test. The test was there for reading ability. So if the test assess what intended to assess, that's what we mean validity. And we can claim, okay, the test was valid. Why? Because it was assessing what it was intended to assess. So therefore, assessment and testing, therefore, in assessment, a professional always evaluates the extent to which the test or other tools of assessment assess accurately what is intended to assess. And this makes the most important question always to be, does the test actually assess what it's supposed to assess? From that idea, now we get a question. You need to ask yourself a question when you come up on thinking what is the validity. Was the test assessed what it was intended to assess? And that is so common. We are just always preparing tests. But you may say, oh, your test was not valid. So don't say the test was not valid without having a reason. You are supposed to have a reason to conclude that you're okay, so as you can convince me that my test was not valid. So later on we're going to see the point of judging either valid or not. But the first thing is that you need to ask yourself, does the test assess what it was intended to assess? If the answer is yes, we can conclude that the test was valid. And if the answer is no, it means that the test was not valid. So from the above now, clarification. Imagine you want to test your student in any of these three educational or learning domains. Which domain? Cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. And you overwhelmed by thinking where and what to start with. However, the most important question you ask yourself are, what kind of behavior do you exactly want to assess? That's okay, even if you need to assess cognitive, you need to assess affective domain, you want to assess psychomotor. What's important when you ask yourself, what kind of behavior do you exactly want to assess? If you need to assess their level of understanding, cognitive development, or it means that with the question now you are going to focus on the issue of cognitive what? Cognitive domain. Because you are just looking what the student managed to achieve within a long period of time of being taught in the classroom or whatever. But if you need to assess the skills, attainability of a certain skills, and not in papers, you need someone to exercise and you can judge. That will be on the part of psychomotor. And if the issue of assessing whether they've captured what we call it affective domain, you cannot even use it again paper. No, maybe you may use what we call it anecdotal records. You may use observation to judge someone in terms of changing his or her attitude, the level of sharing idea with others, the level of moral development, and so forth and so forth. But here, the paper that we tend to come up with in the classroom, know that they are just focusing on cognitive domain. So, if you have already decided which kind of behavior do you need now to you need from your kids, that's where you need to come up with the test items which will help you to assess that kind of behavior. So by answering those two questions, you'll be provide yourself with the evidence on validity of the tool you are intending to use in the assessment. You see, the validity of the test is that from even choosing the tool to use in assessing students. Sometimes you may just come up with the wrong tools. So automatically the results will be, the test itself will be invalid. Why? Because of the tool that you've used. Let's take an example. We have a good example. I need to assess, just using Moodle online. I taught you different ideas, and I just come up with a test, and I'm going to do that test online. But you have said that, oh, sir, your test was not valid. Not that mean that the content was not good. No, the content was good. But the problem, the tool that I've selected now to use in doing that test, that you find that your test was not valid because the internet was not compatible with the kind of tool that I used to assess you. So sometimes someone can judge your test that is not valid, reflecting the tool that we have selected to assess as assessment tools to determine student achievement. Though that we've seen that any test needs to be valid. And that means that validity is very important concept in assessment and testing, but there's no any direct assessment of it. Why do we say so? Therefore, because the direct assessment, as I was saying here, is that you may focus on very important things which make a test to be valid, but you find that eventually students are not performing. So to capture it, we discuss in details. You're going to discuss in details, focusing on all types of validity. So as in later on or at the end of the session, we'll be in a position now of saying that the test was not valid with the reasons. Together with reasons. So validity has several types that you may use later on to judge, okay, that test was not valid. One of the types or the standing point to judge the validity of the test is on the issue of content related evidence of validity. We call it content validity. That's, as introduced before, that although validity is assessed, validity is very important in assessment, but it's not possible to assess directly. Instead, we use content-related approach. How? What is it? Is that in content-related approach, we are going to see that you may say that text was not validity based on the content that you've maybe covered maybe 4 topics. When you come to the exam, you find that there is 10 topics. You say, no, the test was not valid. Why? Because there's no connection between the test provided and the content covered. So within content-related approach, we are going to look on 3 ideas and the types of validity. One is instructional validity. And the second one is curricular validity, and the other one is face validity. So, content-related validity is defined as the matching between the test item prepared and the content that was taught. That's what we mean content-related evidence. That you are just matching the item, the test item prepared, and the content that was taught. You are teaching a certain subject, the subject having maybe 10 topics, and then you come up with a test to judge the test was either valid in connection to content. You are going to check the test item that you've come up with, and then in comparison to the topics or content in general. So therefore, we use content-related validity to assess whether a test is representative of content coverage. So we're talking about content coverage. That's why when we go to the syllabus and the time of preparing table of specification, we are just looking the number of topics as well as the number of periods. So as you can just come up with a test covering all important information in connection to the time spent on that topic. So that man, Haynes, defined content validity as the degree to which element of assessment instruments are relevant to the representative of the targeted construct of a particular assessment purpose. So it's just making looking the relationship between the content, the degree, the degree of content, the amount of content taught in relation to the items or the assessment tools in terms of coverage. So this means content validity put focus on element of the construct and how well they are represented on the test. So one way to determine content validity is by using what we call table of specification that we've covered before. Because we are looking how now the test is managed to cover all important topics taught in the classroom. So, basing on that, there's no need of just putting much time because we've already covered the part of table of specification. So you may read there and then you come up with answers. So within that one, content validity, that's where other things that you may check on the issue of content is the issue of instructional validity. That instructional validity is defined as the match between the test item prepared and the content or material taught by the teacher. That's where we say content, that's what we mean instructional validity. Remember, I said that the type is what we call it constructional validity. Content validity evidence. Within that, we find one of them is instructional validity. So to capture the concept, to understand that idea of instructional validity, just imagine that a teacher is teaching space in science class, for instance. He spent his time in teaching Unit 4 on planet and the planetary system. He's just teaching space science class, and he spent his time in teaching Unit 4 on planet and planetary system. Although the units were well divided, but he spent 40% of his class time to cover gaseous planet, giant gaseous planet, as when he started to prepare the test unit, he carefully generates the test item accurately to reflect what he has taught. Because it diverted a lot of time in a gaseous planet, he want to make sure this part of cover many questions as possible to reflect 40% of time of the time that's used in the classroom. So teacher X, that is teacher P. And then teacher X wants to make sure that the individual item in this test cover the material he taught. So as you see now, to put it clear, that's you as a teacher. You have when you try to check your syllabus, you may find maybe topic 1 having 50 period, topic 2 having 10 period, topic 3 having 20 period, topic 4 having 20 again, 20 period. So when you try to check, you find that there is maybe, when you try to sum up those number of period, it is 100 period. But remember, topic 1 having 50 period, it means that it's 50% of the total number of period. So it means that when you come to the issue of constructing the test, you need even that first topic to cover 50% of test item. So if you do so, and then you maintain that one, we may say that you have covered what we call the instructional validity. Why? Because you have just logged the content and the time provided in that topic, and then you prepare tests reflecting that one. That the more you spend much time, the more answers will be developed from that topic. That's on the issue of instructional validity. Another types of validity under content is what we call it curricular validity. In the curricular validity is there to determine the content-related evidence validity. As I said before, it can express as the actual match between the test, we mean individual test item, and what has been provided or guided by the official curriculum. That's where you find that in the final exam, maybe next exam, Form 4, Form 6, Standard 7, that we have our curriculum is centralized curriculum, not decentralized. So you find the entire country doing the same exam. But those kids that are just being taught in different places. There are those in the rural area, there are those in the urban area. Like those in the urban area, they have access to teachers. And then it's likely that they can be in a position of covering the content on time. different from those in the rural area, because in rural area you may find there are some schools at this point they have only 2 teachers. So can you compare that school and the Benjamin William Mkapa Secondary School where you find that there are 100 teachers? Like impossible. But you cannot just, okay, no, because we're just staying in rural area, no way out, we need to come up with a different exam. No. What they do, they prepare the national exam, not regional exam or village exam. So that kind of exam, and then if you need to assess now, if the exam was valid, we use what we call it curricular validity, because we're just looking the syllabus, the entire syllabus, and then try to check, is the syllabus covered? Not what you have been taught in the classroom. So that kind of validity, we call it curricular validity. So they prepare exam reflecting the curriculum, not reflecting what things we've taught in your class. So you need to cover all topics available in the national curriculum, or in that idea we mean syllabus. And the other one, another types of validity and content evidence validity is what we call face validity. And face validity. And that's why, as you know, the idea of face, that's so much correlated on that idea. That's another approach is in content related evidence validity is referred as face validity. Face validity can be determined by looking if the test item assess the appropriate skills intended to measure, to assess, and appeared to be appropriate for a student taking that test. You take a test like this. This is the test. I have one of the tests here. That test is for it was test of what? Sociology. Second year, the last semester. Sociology, social psychology. So you look about the test itself. There is multiple choice, and then you look at the sample of multiple choice, and then you check here there is matching item, then there's short answers, and from there you find the essay questions. So you look about the test itself. That test is not valid just by looking. I remember one day I used to that some papers were just circulating from University X in Tanzania. And let's put that in bracket, University X. When you look at papers, it was only 6 questions, supposed to attempt only 3 questions out of 6. But the test itself, that essay question, it was so easy in the sense that by looking, by reading, you find that that test was so simple. It's not the university exam, supposed to be Form 4 exam or Form 3 exam. But sometimes I just tend to look one of the paper was on general teaching method in education. Here, you may I find that those are the option in multiple choice tend to appear again in matching item, tend to appear again in short answer, tend to appear again in true or false. So you find that if someone is clever and understand those multiple choice questions, understand those what you call it multiple choice, and then score those multiple choice questions, like you get the all marks in matching item, will get all marks in true or false, and you will get all marks in short answers. So by looking, you may decide, you may determine that test was valid or not valid. You may see that test was so simple, and you remember if the two so simple, it means that the test was not valid, because even those frequently before use, those slow learners, they can score A. The aim of test is just to discriminate. Test is there to discriminate those who knows and don't know. And we're going to see later on the issue of item analysis. That's the issue of discrimination. That's the aim of test. Those who know score high marks. Those who are shaken before you score low marks, so you can come up with the alternative. And that is what we mean on the issue of face validity. There is a lot of there you may just go and read. Another criteria that you may use to determine the validity of the test is based on a criterion related evidence of validity. We've covered the content related evidence of validity. And you've seen that we have first validity, we have instructional validity, and then we have what we call it instructional validity, we have curricular validity, and first validity. Those kind of validity tend to verify whether the test was valid by using construct or content evidence validity. That we use content to determine whether the test was valid or not. So the second category, or the point to use as evidence to determine the type of validity, kind of validity of the test, is what we call it criterion related evidence of validity. In short here, that test is a shortcut way of assessing a certain skills, either intellectual skills, psychomotor skills, whatever, by sampling the content domain taught and skills needed to be predicted. That's what we mean. The aim of test is so much. So imagine that you are teaching students a certain operational procedure. You're a mathematics teacher or science teacher, and then you are teaching them about the operational procedure. And then, but to test if student understood that procedure, you can expose your student to real problem or situation to see if they can follow those procedure as taught, or if they can master the procedure as you taught them. Although it may take a long time or hours, but another way is which is shortcut that require short moment of time. So you have a teaching student, wherever, it's not necessary to be science, even those Kiswahili teachers, you are teaching them how to involve in grammar. So you show them procedures together. So after teaching them those procedures of doing a certain kind of skills, of attempting a certain kind of skills, that you need now to come up with a way to check, are they capable or not? In that manner, your test is supposed to make the same prediction as longer procedure we require to expose the student to a real problem. So if your test was intending on student acquiring a certain skills, so even your test, whenever you come up with a test, provide that room that student can be in a position of practicing what they've been taught in terms of steps. Therefore, the real problem exposed in a criterion error, and the test is the criterion related validity. That man, Alcom, defined criterion related validity as the way in which tests correlate well with another method of assessment, of assessing the same behavior or skills. So it's just a matter of correlation, that test you have provided, this test score, if it's being correlated with other kind of tools of assessment, then you come up with the same, at least the related results. This means if you have two types of tools and you are assessing the same type of behavior or skills, our expectation is that correlative score between is what we have, what is supposed to have a correlative score between the tools. So I'll take an example. You are maybe teaching a certain, let's take it, you are teaching geography. The topic itself is maybe climatology. And then you teach them about climatology, give them paper, the normal paper, writing paper together. So the score that you get there, even if I take them in form of panel, I ask them oral questions, all the exam, I need to find that those who have scored good marks in writing also should score good marks in speaking. So if there is some kind of correlation, that's what implies in criterion related evidence of validity. So within that now, that type of we did that category of determined type of validity, that you may find several again. We're going to find several types of validity, and with the use of criterion-related evidence. One is concurrent validity. What is concurrent validity? That this approach validity can demonstrate if one tool or test positively correlate with another tools of assessing the same behavior or skills at about the same time. That you are assessing the same, you need to the same skills or the same behavior. So you come up with a test by using maybe test as the tools of assessment, one, and then you come up with panel as a tool of assessment. If the results bring positive correlation, that's what we say that is what we call concurrent validity. If there's a discrepancy, you cannot say that that will not be a concurrent validity. Concurrent validity means that there is some sort of correlation, positive correlation between the two tests. So try to imagine you are a chemistry teacher and you are teaching student lab procedure, and then you created a test or theory test to test if student understood the procedure. That's one test. It is about lab procedure, but you give them test, a theoretical test. That means they're supposed to write on papers. But if the students score from the same from the test correlate with the lab procedure, then you write test as concurrent validity. That they have done on papers, they have scored good marks. And then whatever it's good over, they have scored good marks. And then you give them the same test. Instead of just giving them by online thing, and then you give that kind of test, and then they're supposed to do it practically. Going there, shaking and whatever. And then they say the result comes, they say that there's a correlation. Maybe the average was 90, and then in theory, and then the average is 91 in the practical. That is positive correlation because they have all of them, they have what we call the high performance. So if the result, the test are the tools bring that kind of results, we say that test was holding what we call concurrent validity. And then we have another types of validity under criterion influence basis. We have predictive validity. Again, according to Balcom, a test is said to have predictive validity if it is positively correlated with the same future behavior or skills. Therefore, a test can have a predictive validity only if it can predict the future behavior or skills. And a good example of this are called the scholastic aptitude test and American college test. You may just Google and then check an example of those tests. These tests have been used in America to predict student future college performance or who is likely to be successful in college in order to give them choices to join the college. We mean what? We're going to go back to our day now. Before, I remember our batch was the last batch to do what we call the matriculation testing. Before joining in Tanzania, in the previous years, before joining to the university, I was supposed to do exam. That exam was known as matriculation testing. If you pass, you qualify to join universities. If you fail, no way out, maybe you join diploma. So if you come up, it's like example of that kind of scholastic aptitude testing. So the result that you get, it's the predictive. We can predict your whole because we have managed to pass that kind of exam, like you are going to pass even in the university exam. So if you do again better in the future in your university exam, we say that we compare those results that that of matriculation hold what we call predictive validity. But if you are just passing very well, but when you come later in the future, you cannot perform, you cannot stay, we say that the test was not holding validity. But if there is some sort of correlation, that kind of a test, we call it predictive validity. That's why you see here, although there are many other tests which can be used to predict one's future performance or occasion, like job performance test or civil service exam, but even that one can be used to determine how to predict the future of an individual. And if managed to do so, we say that test hold a quality of predictive validity. Another type under validity is construct-related validity. Construct-related validity. The word construct there. That's construct-related validity established when relationship between the test and the other variable confirm what is predicted by the theory. Therefore, if the theory indicates that two or more variables should be positively or negatively related, then the test should be able to predict that. For example, if the theory personality traits indicate that consciousness and neuroticism should be negatively correlated, then if we construct a test, it should be able to predict that negative correlation between the two variables. See, that's you. It is the other part of prediction, but you are just predicting what? Predicting the result, the test in connection to construction. That's okay if you do so. Maybe based on that test, those who are not studying because it's not bookish format, it's not relying on Vitini. Those who are not studying books, they're not reading books, they are going to get C or F. So when you come up with a test and then they manage to get A, you cannot say that your test was construct-related validity. Altogether, that's on the issue of types, the issue of criteria-related validity, evidence validity. They have two: concurrent validity and what we call it predictive validity. Another criteria, the third criteria of determining type of validity or determining validity is based on construct-related evidence validity. That's, I was just saying before, that we are just looking establish the relationship between the test and the other variable to confirm if that variable can predict the future action of an individual. So on that type, we can just define as the way in which assessment device display or provide us with evidence, or if it assess what the theory say it has to assess. But remember, the building of construct-related validity is very difficult because it requires skills and creativity. Example, if you want to develop an intelligent test, then you have to relate the test on how you define the term intelligent and the other things. So on that point, that's the first portion on the issue of the characteristics of a good test reflecting validity, that we can judge the test was valid reflecting based on three evidence. The first evidence is on the issue of construct evidence. The other one is about criterion-related evidence, and the last one is about on the issue of construct related evidence. So we are going to stop here, and then if you have question, please ask, and then you are going to send that things in our. We are going to use Telegram, and then I beg you, when it comes time of discussion, make sure that you put the question related to that sub video that you are going to end up here. So when you are asking question, ask a question on validity. We're going to keep my colleague in Sudan explaining. If you have a question, you're going to ask, and then you're going to explain detail. So when you finish that portion, and then we go to the second video, and then the way we're going to continue until we finish that kind of we are going to finish that kind of presentation.